There we go. That was out, wasn't it? Having a bit of sound.
Bring up to the mic level.
So, let me try that again. We are going to be working with vinyl onto 3D surfaces. And what I want to cover today is how vinyl is actually going to warp and change as we're going onto a three-dimensional surface. So, I've done a little bit of sketch here. Now, to any design that we do, we can apply a grid over the top, and that's it when it's flat. So if you think of that grid being like the grid on your transfer tape, for instance, it's going to be totally flat. But when we're going to move on to our bauble, for instance, you're going to find that that's going to start warping and changing. So first of all, I thought it'd be a good idea to talk about positioning in terms of what that's going to do. So I'm going to work onto my bigger bauble first. And let's say we position it across the middle. So that centre line is going to be this line here. And let me see if I can just bring that down just a touch so you can see that a little bit better. There we go. If I put my hand there, you can see it a bit better. So there's our centre line. And we can do our vertical, like so. But then what's going to change is what it looks like on the outside. So the vertical lines are going to go like that, but they're going to be slightly shorter because as it comes around this curve, it's going to curve your design like so. And likewise, when it goes over the top, it's going to curve like that. So when we're starting to apply vinyl to a three-dimensional surface in terms of baubles, start off with that middle position first. Good morning, Rachel. I believe it's Linda watching because I don't think Deb can make it. Do you want to answer, Carol?
Aches and pains, still bad. Yes, getting hang of job, but it's, yeah. Getting me slowly.
Okay, so let's say we're going to shift that positioning up a bit. So again, our vertical is going to stay the same, but it's going to move up the bauble. Now, because the bauble is a 3D surface and it's coming out as a shape like this, even that centre line is going to move once you take it away from that centre portion. So at that point, your centre line is going to curve. Okay, and then your sides are going to go like that. Now,
Morning, Karen.
this is still going to be sitting slightly above our centre line.
What have I opened to do for Karen? It's the first time.
And hi, Karen. First time watching. Cool. So there's hundreds of videos that you can go back on and catch up on. And most of them are free. And this top line is going to become even more curved than what it would be in that centre section. And conversely, if we were to drop it down to the bottom, you're going to have the same effect, and like so. So firstly, you're going to look at your design now, and if it's something straight, so let's say it's text and it's all on one baseline, go for that middle. But if it's something that curves this way, you're going to want to make sure it's in that top hemisphere. And if it's something that curves this way, you're going to want it in the bottom.
It's just a knack we have there.
And morning, Maggie. So that's kind of the theory, but then I'm going to complicate it a bit more. And if we go down to a smaller bauble, is actually going to cause that design to have even more of a curve. So if we look at that top bit again, and bear in mind we're going for a larger design, so this line here is going to curve, but it's going to be going all the way around here, so this bit is going to start to distort that way. And this bit's going to be much more pronounced, the curve. So as a rule of thumb, if when you start doing these, you want to go for bigger baubles rather than smaller baubles. It can be awfully tempting to think, oh, if it's smaller, it's just little, I'm just going to test it out and then try it. But you're going to struggle to find a way to do it, because you're more likely to get creases in your vinyl and so on and so forth. But as a beginner, what I would recommend starting with is a mug. So you want to have something that's as simple as possible, and then you're going to learn to apply your vinyl on a curve to start with. So we're going to go from there, then onto your bauble, and finally I've also got a side plate. Now this is going to have the opposite curve to what we're used to with our baubles, so it's going to be a slightly different way of working again. Hi Naomi. Okay, so with that said, if you want to take a screenshot of this, then that's absolutely fine. I don't mind, just so that you can kind of consider it in your mind where you're positioning your vinyl for your next bit. Okay, so I'm going to get a file opening in if you want to carry on talking for a little bit, and I'll tell you when you...
Something to talk about.
Christmas workshops?
We haven't launched them yet, have we? I haven't put them up on the page yet for payment, so... What have we? Here we are.
Haven't you?
Yeah, I thought I did, yeah. Yeah, they're on some up, aren't they?
Yeah, so there is a Christmas workshops option on the sum up page, so you can join in there.
The notebook Natalie's using is available on our Amazon.
It's one of those.
Interesting, it's one of our own, it's one we've created. It's a handy little book for scan cut users, or any digital cut users.
There we go, let's have a look at that. Shall we have Baby It's Cold Outside on the mug? I think that would work quite well.
Yeah.
Let's see if it'll open that way in Canvas. I somehow doubt it. There we go. Who needs the SVG button? So I'm going to start off in Canvas. Nice and simple. So first of all, we need to measure our mug. So
Camera on now because you've
overhead, and I'm going to zoom out a little as well. I'm taking a bit of a guess where my camera is, but hopefully you can see the mug. So you kind of end up having to do like a rocking action. So if you can try and keep your mug as stable as possible. So I'm going to go for about an 8 centimetres, so that's going to have plenty of wrap around. Now what I want to do is I'm going to
Hang on, I'm just
go to display. There we go. I'm going to select all the elements of my SVG. And at the moment you can see some of it's welded, some of it's not.
Okay, so I'll use a fabric tape measure.
Yeah, or use a fabric tape measure if you happen to have one. I'm really good at losing them. So it doesn't matter how many we have, does it? I always lose them. So with it grouped, I'm just going to go into edit, and then in here we can alter the width and size, and make sure that your maintain aspect ratio button is ticked, and we want 8 centimeters, so that's 80 millimeters. Hit enter. It's going to go tiny. And before we cut, you're going to check the height. So the height says it's 52.1 millimeters, so 5.2 centimeters. And that should be fine too.
Let's just zoom in on the thing now. On the computer.
Yeah. So, zooming in. Now we just need to decide on colour. So this is the fun bit. So, should I go for the purple sparkly on that one? Or should I save that one? I think I might save that for the bauble. So, let's go for... Do you want to go overhead for a second, sweetie? Oh, we've got some tech wrap. Let's go tech wrap. So when we're applying vinyl to mugs, you want to make sure that it's a permanent vinyl rather than a repositionable one. And let's go. That one's nice. I like that one for Christmas. So hopefully that's not glaring too much in camera. I'm going to go for that one. And you'll notice I've already got a few notches out, so it's a partially loved sheet of vinyl. So again, the scan and cut is really good for when we've got things like this where we've got little chunks missing and we want to check our alignment. So can I have a cutting mat?
Have you not got too many discs?
No, you took them all.
Have you not got a new one?
I will have to have a new one.
We shut the last one away, didn't we?
There we
Got
go.
up, didn't it?
Yeah, don't leave your cutting mats by the radiator, it's not a good idea. Oh well. Learn by my mistakes. So, I'm going to line my vinyl up, and it doesn't matter if it's not perfectly level, but so long as we're kind of
Rachel's
concentrating
asked
on this
if
corner here.
the vinyl will make the mugs hand wash only, or can they go in dishwasher?
If they're definitely going to go in a dishwasher, you can use Mod Podge, which is dishwasher safe, over the top. But when you do that, you want to apply it and kind of wipe it back off, so it's literally just going around the edges of your vinyl. Otherwise it kind of looks a bit, especially on this one, it looks a bit like you're almost mattifying it, but it's not matte. It's really weird. It's almost like a kind of satin, but if you've used a brush or anything to apply it, you can see your brush strokes, which isn't ideal. So let's load that into the machine, and we're going to go to File, Export, and Transfer via the internet. Okay. So this first one, we're going to keep it nice and simple. We haven't bent anything or anything in terms of warping it, because we're going to be working onto a surface that more or less curves in just one direction. There's a little bit of a curve at the bottom, but if you stay away from that, you should be alright. So I'm going to pull that back off the internet. And there's our design. Now we've grouped it, so that means that we can move it as one. And we're going to move it in slightly from that corner. And the reason I'm going to do that is so that I can use the machine to do a weeding box. So, once you're happy with your design, we've already sized and everything else, we can go to OK. Please select Cut. We're going to go into Settings. We're going to go down one page. Make sure your half cut is on, so you can tell what I've cut last. And we're going to turn on our weeding box.
Karis asked what's the difference between tech wrap and other vinyl.
Cost. So tech wrap vinyl is kind of the luxury end of the market, so it can be a little bit more expensive. But if you go on Crafty Cutter, they do an entire page which is their version of tech wrap, and it's worth popping on there and seeing what they've got. All their vinyl is sold in A4 sheets though, and tech wrap is in 12 inches. That's about the only difference really. So with my weeding box on, you can see that you've got a weeding box spacing of 3mm. Now you can reduce that if you want to, or if you're tight for space. But most of the time I just leave it on default. And you can see that's added a rectangular box around our design. Now let's pop in the vinyl blade. So that's the light blue handled one. And I usually leave my pressure on auto when I'm doing half cut. It's the only time it's ever on auto is when I do half cut.
I will put a link up in the group, Carol, because I'm not able to do it at the moment like I used to. For the tech wrap vinyl, we'll find a link for it.
Yes, yeah. So, with that all set, we can go to start. You can also find a link to the tech wrap vinyl in our Amazon store as well. Which one?
That one.
This one. That's the one that was dodgy because it's the washi tape one. No, the microphone doesn't work.
It's still playing.
Still under a year. Just, I think. Okay, so while that's cutting, it's going to take a little bit longer. Let's kind of move on. So I'm just going to move that over there a bit. So bear with me 1 moment. I'm going to hop across to Silhouette Studio. Okay, so let's say if you're working with Silhouette, how can you kind of work so that we can create things like that? You're really looking, you're thinking, I can't remember where I saw it now. I'm in the right mode, aren't I? Let's check. Everything's moved. Don't like it. Okay, viewing. Yeah, it's in business edition. Okay. My brain's gone.
What are you looking for?
Where we can change it so that it's going to fit on a mug. Because you can do it in. Well, that's just your layers.
No, do it on the side.
That's rhinestones.
That one.
I know it's probably staring at me. I occasionally have that moment. Anyway, let's do some text and it might just come back to me. So, keyboard always helps. Let's work on some vinyl for our bauble. So our bauble's got a crown, so it's like, okay, I'm gonna go with it, and let's go princess. It's gonna be in purple and sparkly, so why not? And I'm gonna go for a script font. So when we want to do something where we're wilding, script fonts are gonna work best for you. You want to go for a fairly bold one. So often one of the questions we get asked is, what font would you recommend? Beach is a good place to start for most beginners because it's quite strong. So you can see, even though that's really small, it's like quite blocky. But because I use it a lot, let's see if there's something a bit different we can use. Let's go for that one. And you want a solid font rather than a line font. And we can see that we've got all our characters are currently overlapping. Now that's okay, but what you need to do is actually weld those into one piece. Told you, can't see for looking today. It's just one of those days. So, with that done, oh, we don't want to lose our P. So, let's get that back under there, the dot for our eye as well. Actually, there we go. Let's try that again. And we'll group, make sure it stays together. So with that grouped, I want to go a little bit bigger because I want to be able to see the difference. And I can't think. It's really bad today. So warping. There we go. Told you, can't see the, and it's right there, staring at me, going there. But in here we have a conical warp. So what does that mean? If you are doing something like a takeaway cup, we can actually use the warping ability in Silhouette, and you can actually do this in Shortcuts a lot. You can do it in Illustrator. To do it in Affinity, you have to kind of do a bit of a workaround. So what you need to do is to take your design into Affinity Photo and warp it in there, and then bring it back into Designer and manually trace it with a pen tool. But we can see that down here we can set the sizes of our cup. So we have a standard one that's already in, but we can actually go in and actually change all of those measurements, and it works on diameters, so you can literally measure across your object, and then what it's going to do is it's actually going to bend, and where there's text you can actually get it to do your characters too. But where you want something to weld like this, you're probably going to want to do that weld first. You okay?
Yeah, I was just going to say hello to Tanya, who joined the group.
Hi Tanya!
She said, sorry, just found you. She said she'll catch up on replay.
Okay. So, let's say you want to do something similar to this, but you want to do it in Canvas Workspace. How can you do it? So, first of all, as it's finished cutting, I'm just going to check that it's cut properly before I move anything.
Carol's asked, if you do something like this in Cricut Design, can you save it to SVG and take it into Canvas?
It probably depends with the Cricut, whether it's using one of their designs or not. It's similar with Silhouette. So if you create your own design from scratch, so like I just did with Princess, you can, if you've got the business edition, you can export it to SVG and I can cut it on the Scan and Cut. But if it's something I've bought off the Silhouette store and then try and export it to SVG, it's basically going to have like a dashed cut line so that you can't use it as such, just down to copyright. Okay, so
Gosh, they don't have cricket, by the way, just putting it out there.
so I've checked my
Cool.
cut using my weeding box, and as long as that corner pulls away, you should be good to go. So I'm going to do that next before I do the next bit, so that we can see that. So first of all, let's move this big bundle. And I'm sure somebody's going to ask, how do we store our vinyl? Normally we have it in a big 12 by 12.
Down a little bit.
Down a little bit. Hang on.
Layer off the,
Hang on. Let me switch back to Streamlabs and I'll see if I can lower that brightness again. Da, 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 da. There we go. It's a little bit better. You can see a lovely reflection in the camera. There we go. So we can start to gently pull this away. Now, if you're doing something really kind of fragile and complex, then what can help you is a light box, or if stuff is moving, because not all vinyl is created equal, then you can do reverse weeding, and I think I showed that on Friday with the reverse weeding, didn't I? Okay.
can't remember.
So if you want to ask about my different tools and things, please feel free. But what I'm using at the moment is a pair of tweezers that have weeding hooks instead. It's really weird. So they're tweezers, but they're both hooked. And they do tend to help.
Yeah, Carl suggests you did show it, so there you go.
So yeah, if you need to reverse weed, just go back to that one. Come here. There we go.
All our videos go up onto YouTube and onto the Planetcraft group, and are available for as long as they'll let us keep them up there.
Yeah, I'm going to put a bit of a proviso on that one. They are currently changing over all the classic pages to the new pages format. Now, when we did the trial run, it lost all of our videos, which wasn't good. Come here.
Well, they should all be up on YouTube now, shouldn't they?
They should.
Because Tracy, bless her, painstakingly went through and put them all up for us, didn't she?
Yes. Yes, she did. There's always one, isn't there? Let me see if I can sort out this O. Now, normally, I wouldn't advise lifting up and doing it, but sometimes when there's a camera in the way. Come on. There we go. So it's always a good idea to have like a little dustbin that you can kind of clean your tweezers off onto. Oh, one more. Let's see if I can get this one. It's a bit like playing Tiddlywinks sometimes. Okay. So we have our design weeded, which is what we call when we take that waste away. Then we just need some transfer tape. So not all transfer tape is created equal, and you'll find that you'll get different results with different transfer tape with different vinyl. So sometimes you'll find that transfer tape works great for you in terms of it will lift off and it will transfer nice and easily. Sometimes if you're working with a strong transfer tape and your vinyl's not so strong, though, you can struggle to get it to actually transfer to your surface. So it's just being a bit wise as to how tacky your tape is. You can reuse your tape multiple times, but each time you do, obviously it's going to lose a little bit of tack. So you want to cut your transfer tape so it's slightly larger than your design, like so. I use a gridded one to try and help me keep stuff level. Doesn't always work. So I'm going to line up my line with one of the lines of text, and like so. I'm going to smooth it down over the top. Now sometimes it needs a little help. Sometimes it needs more than a little. So you can bring in a squeegee. So a squeegee has usually a felt edge, one edge, and like a plastic scraper the other. Now when you're working with the front of your vinyl, or if you're like pressing something down onto your mug, you're going to want to make sure you use that felt side so that you don't scratch the surface of your vinyl. On the back though, it doesn't really matter which side you use. You're going to find that the felt side has a bit more of a give. Okay. So you can now see what I mean when I say they're not all equal. Come on. You know you want to really for me. Okay. Another tip. If it's struggling, just going to lift up my transfer tape on this edge here. And this is why you'll find that I get little cutout sections like this. We can get in there and just trim very roughly around our box. Yeah, okay, it means that you lose a tiny bit of vinyl, but it's not that much in the scheme of things. And work from the back. So I'm going to pull my backing paper back against itself. So a bit like what we do if you were doing masking tape, for instance. Come on. Naughty S does not want to come off. And the good news is you only need it to kind of stick on there enough to get it onto your design. So there we go. I can peel that bit off. Now, do go careful, because if you put your thumb on the sticky bit now, you know for a fact that that's not going to stay attached to the transfer sheet. It's going to like your thumb. So, next, is the person you're going to give this to right or left-handed? Because that can make a difference where you might want to put the vinyl. So, most people right-handed. Now, the other thing that we always do is wipe off your mug or your glass first with some alcohol. Now if you're working onto a bauble, however, you might need to do a little bit of a test swatch to make sure that you're not pulling anything off that shouldn't be coming off. Okay, so I can use the grid on my transfer tape to try and judge that level. So we're going to go firstly around that straight centre line, so where the baby is. And we're going to press that down. Now obviously then when we come to this bit where it's starting to do that curve, I'm going to lift up my cup and I'm going to work from this centre line down. Now if you get to a point and you think, actually I can see that my transfer tape is starting to crinkle, you can actually attach, or tack I should say, your transfer tape. So I'll just put a snip down into the centre of that word, and then we can go, okay, I can apply that first, like so. And then we're going to lift up the transfer tape, like so, and peel that bit out of the way, because the last thing you want to do, particularly on something that's super duper curved, so a smaller bauble, is attach your vinyl to the back of your transfer sheet and tape. So let's go and pop that down there. And if you need to do another snip, you can do. So this time I'm going to go from the centre point again, and I'm going to work out towards the corner. And we can see that there's a little bit of a bump in that little tail bit there. So I'm just going to take my time and work that bubble back towards my text there, and out that way. So now you can see that when we've pressed this bit down, and if we press this transfer tape down, you can see how much of an overlap you get between the two. So let's see, so you've got like a overlap just there, so you can snip in and kind of help things along. So again, with this bit here, we've got a kind of swoosh that is going to kind of get in the way of doing a direct snip. But if we just work with our thumb from the centre out, nice and lightly, just over the its, so that gets into place, and you're going to hear that you've kind of got a bubble there, but as long as it's lifted away from that tape, you're good to go. Then I'm going to work on the swoosh and take that down and round like so. So we could have put another snip in that, but there's no real need when we've already done that application there. So always work from the centre out, and then we've got our mug. That's really funky, that. So there we go. So I'm going to pop that onto my side plate. I can't say a sauce, it's too big for a sauce. Now, get your backing paper from your transfer sheet and pop it straight on. Even though we've snipped into it, that doesn't mean to say that we throw it away. It does look cool. That's one of the reasons why I love tech wrap vinyl, is it's got all these shades in it. So you never know exactly how it's going to look depending on light and angle. It's so funky. So yeah, that's the tech wrap vinyl. So let's bring in my bauble. So we've done our design where it's more or less been over a kind of curve that just goes in one direction. Now we're going to be dealing with something that goes in both directions, like so. So did you leave the price tag on? Honestly. There we go. Let's take that off. Yeah, I was going to use one of the ones out of my stash, but then it was like, oh, well, we got to go and get a mug and well, I wanted to sort of, we got kind of slide plate because that was all they had. Now, one thing to say before I go any further, with your hook tweezers, make sure you pop your safety cap back on and put them into their tube because they are sharp and you could have a bit of an accident with them if you don't. So, let's go back to silhouette. So we've got this setting here for if we're doing something like a cup. But let's say we want to do something where we're working onto that bauble. What can you do? So if we go into our warping, it's going to give you examples of how your text is going to want to warp. Now, for the most part, the ones you're going to want to use are right here at the top. So if you go and think back to my little diagram in my notepad, this one is most like our bauble. So we can go and do that. And you're going to look at it and think, but that doesn't look right. So we can stretch this out and get it how we want it. All dependent on our bauble. So the bauble's quite big, so I'm just going to lift that one that way. And you want to do the same the other side, like so. So we now have something that is going to go bigger in the middle and smaller towards the outside. And I think that's going to look really funky across the centre. So we can take that design now and take it up to the top corner of our mat. And if you've got a silhouette, you can cut it in silhouette or you can export to SVG. What have you done to yourself now? Oh dear. So I'm going to go to Save As, Save to Hard Drive. And I'm just going to go onto my desktop for now. And let's put it in the streaming folder and give it a new name. So keep it nice and simple. Princess. Make sure that you choose SVG and go OK. And I did put the silhouette on, but I'm like, I'll just cut it in here, that's fine. So I can delete out my Baby's Cold Outside and bring in my new SVG. So I'll just use the SVG button rather than drag it in this time. And let's go back to the stream folder. There's my princess. Bring in. And you're going to see straight away it's lost its grouping. So just make sure that you go back over the top and group. Drag it in from the edge, so you're just doing it on the machine. And I'm just going to check that size because there's nothing worse than having cut it out to find that actually you could do it bigger. So this will actually take about 11 centimeters width. So width 110. And it's going to give me a height of 36. So yep, that's fine. And we can send that to our machine. So when that's cutting, I'm going to show you how we can actually work with text in Canvas if you have nothing else to use to do this, so that we can actually enable you to also just do it in Canvas. Let's break up the machine. I'm back to sleep on me.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to go home to reset. And we can go to retrieve data and bring that in. There we go. Let me just check the angle. And say it looks a little low, so let's bring that up a bit. There we go. So we can do the same process again. We're going to go to cut. It's going to remember our half cut, but as I said on Friday, it forgets the weeding box. So I'll just add that on and it will go back through that process. So, purple, purple, purple. I'm going to apply my purple vinyl now. Why don't we just pop overhead for a minute, sweetie? Some vinyl comes on a roll, and that's fab to work with if you've got a roll feeder. So in the case of the silhouette, you have one built in, but it's not so good when you want to then put it onto a mat, and this is right from the centre of a roll. So I'm just going to roll in the opposite direction this way first of all, and hold it for a bit like that, and then let's roll this way. Now if you've seen my link I popped up for this vinyl on the group, you'll see that I've said it's awfully forgiving. It takes an awful lot of tugging. So, there we go. So you want it so that it's fairly flat. If it's still like curling up and fighting being on the mat, so particularly if you've got an older mat, then it's one that I would say just tape it down so it doesn't accidentally ping up in your machine. Now I'm working with a brand new Artisticks mat. So press that down well. So half cut's on, and we can tell it to go. Okay, so let's go back to canvas while that's cutting, and let's show you how we can actually create something for a bauble. So let's go back to our text, and we'll use Princess again just because we can. Oh, not that many S's. And let's bring that up a bit, and we can change our text. So test my memory now. Let's go for something slightly different. Not too different. Ah, there you go, that's the one we used. So there's our text. Now what I'm going to want to do is, you can, if you want it like this where you've got a curve at the top and bottom, you can do it all through character size. So you do your P a little bit smaller, make your I bigger, and so on and so forth, until you kind of get to where you want to be with the layout. But let's say we're going to pop it across the top half of our bauble. We can actually use a path, and I'm just going to create a simple triangle like so, and at the end we're just going to click back on that last point, so that we have our triangle. Is it perfect? No. Does it matter? No. So I'm going to click on it twice so that I can get to my nose, which is what these little dots are called, and we can drag that down just so it looks a bit more even. That's a bit better. Now our centre point is slightly off centre, so I'm just going to again drag that back to the right so that it's going to be a bit more central. Now with that still selected, if we come up to the top here, we can change that into a curve, And it's going to give us a handle, which is this little line that attaches to a dot like so. And we can drag that out. Now you're going to notice that only affects one side of our point, so we're going to go down to our end point and we're going to press the same button, even though we don't want that point to curve yet. So we can drag our handle and it's going to go, alright, okay, so you want that level. That's fine, like so. Now for these outside points, I'm just going to take that handle and let's take right down to the point itself, like so. And then we can increase our handle this way, so we get more of a curve. Don't need it quite so tall, so I'm just going to bring that down. Now, excuse my computer, it's just having a little bit of wobbly. It's just because it's having to stream at the same time. So, with our text and our curve, we can go fit to path in the edit menu, which is underneath where you usually be welding. So we're going to fit it to path. Now you'll notice I'm doing that before I've welded, because if we weld first, in this case, it would lose that ability to fit that to the path. So you're going to do the fit to path first. Okay. So, let's see if we can bring in that character spacing up in the top here. And we're going to take that down. So, we're kind of getting there with most of it. But you're going to find that this little bit here, if we try and join all this up, it's going to be too cramped when it gets to the rest of the characters. So, that's probably about where it's going to come. And let's do horizontal alignment to the centre, so that's going to put it onto the centre of our path. Now, vertical alignment is where we're going to actually sit it on that line. So at the moment, it's got the line at the bottom. But if we're struggling, we can take it to the centre one and we can go, okay, that's working a little bit better. And maybe we can just let that character spacing out a little. There we go. And it's all a case of just playing with the settings and having a little fun. And once you're done, make sure you do convert to shapes, so then you can do your weld. And instead of having individual characters that cut out of each other, we've got our text good to go. So, now that's done, I'm just going to check my cut that I've just done. So for those of you that weren't there at the beginning, there is a little illustration I did just showing how warping works. Okay. Now this could be interesting because everything that I've done with this vinyl so far has been cut by hand. So let's see how it goes with transfer tape. And let's get that up there, back across here, there we go. Now, sometimes it can be a little bit tricky to read holographics and sparkles, so don't be afraid to get your fingers underneath just so that you can tilt it to the light to see your cut line. And like so. one little one just there at the base of the P. There we go. So back with our transfer tape. Is it going to be long enough? Nope. Let's just cut another piece. Right. About 2 squares and okay. So if you're working with a bit of text that has more than one line to go onto a bauble, you're actually better off trying to do it one line at a time rather than trying to transfer the whole of the image like I did with the mug. Come on. I'm only doing this from an offcut anyway, so I don't mind kind of hacking into it. There we go. Squidgy. Now, if you've overcut your vinyl, number one, it's not necessarily something you've done wrong, especially on the SDX, because you've got that auto setting, so sometimes it goes a bit too far. So you can see, if I start to peel this off, got a little bit of backing paper, and that's just where it's just overcut slightly. So next time that you cut that, I'll just drop down the pressure. I didn't think it was, to be honest. So I'm just going to peel that back. Come on.
You're a little bit high, sweetie.
Am I a little bit off screen? I apologise. I'm just going to sort that out at the end. Because sometimes it's just easier. So I'm using the flat edge of my scraper this time to kind of force that vinyl off my backing. So if ever you overcut and you think, oh no, it's no good, I'm going to throw it away. No, don't do that. There we go. Get your tweezers. Number one, you can take out all the easy bits. So where we didn't have any vinyl in the first place. And we can...
Mum's just joined.
Hey, hi Mum.
Looks like I can't see the YouTube comments.
Oh. There we go. I'll wait for Multistream to wake up. Okay. Come on. Trying to desperately not take the adhesive with it. So, at least with the baubles, it doesn't matter quite so much because you're not about to stick them in the dishwasher. But particularly if you're doing this on mugs or saucers or side plates even, you just want to make sure that you're not touching that adhesive too much, preferably not at all, just to get a good, because we all have oils in our hands and adhesive does not like oil. I know what else we can say at that while I'm doing this, Ian.
What's that?
Have we done happy birthday?
We haven't.
So we have a birthday girl watching. So happy birthday, Linda. And I hope you're getting that graph room today.
No, fend for himself.
Yeah, Nat can definitely fend for himself today. Okay, so again, and do excuse the alarm that's coming in the background, it's not us. There we go. So, with that one there. Now, you can make yourself a jig from most things. And in this case, I've got a giant roll of electrical tape, which is a little bit smaller than the bauble. Okay, that's the important bit. So don't try and do one that sort of only comes to about there. Make sure that there's enough of a lip that you can work your way around. Okay, now I'm going to stand up for this so that I can see over the top, and we can go, there's a seam there, so I'm going to skip the seam because perfectionist and all. And let's get that as level as I can. Okay, and again we're going to go from the centre out. So centre, then do top and bottom of the centre, then we're going to rotate it, and we're going to go and do above the centre, below the centre, rotate again, and we go above. And you notice I'm trying to do this one character at a time. Now for this because we've got that join, we're going to work from that join and out. And then finally we've got our P, which we can just place down and let that go around there. So now we've got the same to do this side. So just going to press that down. Now we've got this join coming up here, so I'm actually going to place that first, otherwise it can be really common to get a wrinkle in there. And we can press that E just by following that through, so we can see that we've got a wrinkle in our transfer sheet, but our vinyl is nice and smooth, so we can follow it around to the next character. Again, we're going to go up in that diagonal motion following that little join there, and then we can go down that way, and again follow up and press down, and there we go. So you can hear as I rub my finger back over the top how much wrinkle I've actually got in my transfer tape. Come on. Release. There we go. Now if you do get anything that lifts up like that, try to just very gently peel it away from the transfer tape, because we can go back over it after with that felt side of our squeegee. And there we go.
The dot of the eye come off.
Yep, the dot of the eye came off as well.
Yeah.
Although, if ever you do lose a dot of an eye, it's a good place to go and put a gem.
Not the end of the world, is it?
Not the end of the world, no. And there we go. I think I might have to do a Prince one as well. Just because you like that vinyl, don't you, Ian?
Huh?
You like that vinyl, don't you, the purple one?
Mm-hmm.
And Karen says, and finding the tips on the actual transfer really helpful to know. Yeah, it's one of the things that you don't tend to see covered in any kind of great depth in terms of actually snipping in to your transfer tape. So for a single line like that, you can just work your way up and down, up and down, and up and down as you go from the centre out. Oh dear. So Thea says Mr. Canny just is back again. I think my dad's one of those too. And I'm glad that you all found it helpful. The only thing we haven't got round to doing is the side plate.
Yeah, well, we can always do another one.
So I think what I'll do is I will do another one with the side plate, just so that you can see how to work with a curve in the opposite direction. So we would love to see your baubles and your mugs. So if you go to Scan and Cut Papercraft Courses, Classes and Workshops by Plannercraft, longest group name ever, and go and join there, and then you can upload a photo of the balls that you're making. So let me get it right. Naomi's put one up, or two?
Mm-hmm.
Two. And one of the things you're going to find is that I'm terrible with names. Absolutely terrible.
Don't just show the mug as well, put that back in shot.
So yeah, let's put the mug back in shot too, and so that just to tick a box for Facebook, because Facebook then goes and puts that as the thumbnail. Could do with something to just wedge there, like there, so it stays up. It's not quite high enough. You're going to give me some washi tape. There you go. Resourceful. The tweezers came with a roll of HTV Runt HTV vinyl. They are like a freebie that you find in the centre of your roll. Or if you have a hook tool, you can use that instead. I do find the tweezers useful for when you get like little bits like backing where you just need to just get the tweezers in there. And I will try and see if I can find the tweezers without having to get the HTV roll, but the HTV roll is cool. And thank you Tanya, thank you Maggie, and thank you to everyone who's watched. Don't forget to pop a like on the video. It ticks a box with Facebook that says, yep, you like that, and we'll give you more of that. So like, love, share away, and have fun. So I am back on Monday.
Yes.
Because
Friday,
no, there's no me on Friday, so usually there would be a class on Friday, Karen, but for this week unfortunately there's not, so hence you have me today. Naomi, you're welcome, and I'm glad that's helped. And thank you, Carol, for watching, and Karen and everyone else. Take care, and I'll see you Monday at 11, and I will probably finish off with the side plate just so that we can kind of tick the box that we've finished and done the set. I may also do a snowman face for Naomi to have a look at, because I found my cut files for it. So depends on if I can find a nice white bauble, because it needs to be white for that one. Yep. So see you Monday at 11, and then off the top of my head I'm doing Friday at 11, and then maybe one on Wednesday, we'll see. So take care. Oh, Rachel's jetting off to South Africa.
Oh, very nice.
Very nice.
You can always catch up on YouTube.
Yes. Yeah. YouTube is the easiest to catch up on. So take care and bye.